Chapter 6. Wings of Change. The air inside LAX was electric, buzzing with hurried voices, intercoms crackling, and the low rumble of rolling suitcases over tile. Sam and Carl stood side by side in Terminal 5, each with a backpack slung over one shoulder and a one-way ticket in their pockets. Carl looked around like a kid seeing the world for the first time. "I've never flown before," he admitted. Sam grinned. "You're gonna be fine. Just don't order anything weird from the snack cart." They made it through security, Carl a little jumpy, Sam calm and collected. He kept close, guiding Carl like a protective older brother, even though they were born on the same morning. Twin souls finally walking together. As they walked toward their gate, Sam glanced out the massive windows. The morning sun bounced off the wings of planes lined up on the tarmac, and for a second, he felt it. The shift, the weight of goodbye, and the hope of something new. Their first flight connected through Kansas City. Carl pressed his face to the window as they took off, watching the sprawling city of Los Angeles grow smaller and smaller beneath them. "Feels like we're flying away from everything," he whispered. Sam nodded. "We are, but we're also flying to something." They landed in MCI just after lunch. A short layover gave them time to stretch, grab a burger, and laugh at Carl's first experience with airport bathroom hand dryers. "Loudest thing I've ever heard," Carl muttered, shaking his head. Their second flight was smaller, quieter, the kind of plane where you feel every bump and every turn. Carl gripped the armrests a little tighter this time, but Sam gave him a reassuring pat on the shoulder. "You're doing great, man. Nashville's just ahead." As they descended into Tennessee, the sky outside was painted gold with the setting sun. Trees stretched out for miles. The horizon wasn't choked with buildings. It was open, green, and full of promise. When they landed at BNA, the cabin lights flicked on with a soft chime. Carl looked over, eyes wide but calm. "We're really here." "Yeah," Sam said, standing up. "Welcome home." They walked through the terminal, quieter now. The hum of Nashville was different than LA, less edge, more soul. Sam could already feel it in the air. Outside the airport, the air was cooler. A little humid. Sweet with the scent of distant trees in spring. Sam hailed a ride and they tossed their bags in the trunk. As they pulled away from the airport, Carl stared out the window again. "Think this place'll fix us?" he asked softly. Sam looked at his brother. "No, but I think we will." And with that, they drove into the dusk. Two brothers, hearts stitched together by chance and choice, heading toward a new chapter they'd write themselves. To be continued. Chapter 7. A Room of His Own. The apartment complex was tucked between tall trees and quiet streets, just outside the heartbeat of downtown Nashville. Brick buildings with white trim and flower beds lined the walkways. Their unit was on the second floor, modest, clean, and filled with sunlight. 2 bedrooms. One for Sam. One for Carl. It was the first thing Sam made sure of. After hauling in their few bags and picking up a couple of folding chairs and air mattresses from a local shop, they stood in the middle of their new home, surrounded by echoes and possibilities. Carl's bedroom was at the end of the hall. It had a single window that looked out over a patch of green and a faint view of the skyline. The walls were bare, the closet empty. But it was his. He stood in the doorway for a long time, just staring. Then he stepped inside and closed the door quietly behind him. Sam gave him space. He knew what it was like, to feel something so deeply you couldn't speak it. But after 20 minutes passed in silence, Sam got concerned. He patted down the hallway and knocked gently. "Carl?" No answer. He pushed the door open slowly. Carl was curled up on the air mattress, face buried in the pillow, shoulders trembling with soft, broken sobs. Sam stepped inside and sat down beside him. Hey. Carl turned his face just enough for his voice to crack through. "I never had a room before," he whispered. "Not really. Not one that was mine." Sam's chest tightened. "I know. I didn't even have a bed most nights. Just floors. Sometimes the ground, or a couch if I got lucky." Sam reached over and placed a hand on Carl's back, steady and warm. "Well, this one's yours now. All yours." Carl shook his head slowly. "I don't even have pants that fit." Sam smiled gently, trying to lighten the heaviness in the room. "That's okay. You've got pants coming in the mail. I ordered them yesterday. 2 pairs of jeans, one with those stretchy waistbands you like." Carl gave a wet laugh through his tears. "And socks, too," Sam added. I got the soft kind. You deserve soft. Carl turned toward him, wiping his face with the sleeve of his shirt. Why are you doing all this for me? Because you're my brother, Sam said simply. Because we were supposed to grow up together, and we didn't. But we have now. And I'm not letting you go back to being alone. Not ever. Carl nodded, the tears still coming, but slower now. He sat up and hugged Sam tight, burying his face in his shoulder. I don't want to mess it up. You won't, Sam whispered. This is just the beginning. Outside, the sun began to set, casting a soft gold across the hardwood floors. Inside, two brothers held onto each other in a quiet room finally filled with the feeling of home. To be continued. Chapter 8, The First Chord. The days in Nashville had a rhythm now, slow, steady, healing. Morning walks to the corner cafe, afternoon unpacking, hanging thrifted art on bare walls, evenings on the balcony, sipping sweet tea and watching the world settle down. But one thing made every day special: music. Sam had set up his little home studio in the living room, just a laptop, a mic stand, an audio interface, and his two favorite guitars, one acoustic, one electric with a chipped blue finish. And right next to that setup, a second guitar sat waiting. Carl eyed it often, but never touched it. One afternoon, Sam finally said, "You ready?" Carl looked up from the couch. "For what?" Sam handed him the acoustic. "To play." Carl blinked. "I don't know how." "That's the point," Sam said, sitting next to him with his own guitar. "I'm going to teach you." Carl hesitated, fingers awkwardly cradling the neck. "What if I suck?" Sam smirked. "Then you'll suck beautifully, and we'll laugh. But give it time, and you'll sound like you." He showed Carl the basics: how to hold the pick, how to press down without buzzing the strings, how to strum in rhythm. Carl fumbled through the first chords, G, C, and D, his fingers stiff and clumsy. But Sam kept the mood light. "See, you're a natural disaster," he joked, and Carl snorted. They played together every day after that, a little longer each time. By the end of the week, Carl could strum a slow, clean G chord, his eyes lighting up at the sound. "That's music, bro," Sam said. "You made that." One night, Sam pulled out a printed sheet with lyrics. "What's this?" Carl asked. "A song I wrote last year. Never finished it. Thought maybe we could." Sam started playing a slow chord progression. "Sing with me." Carl shook his head. "Nah, I can't sing." "Yes, you can. Everyone can. You just don't know your voice yet." Carl looked unsure, but Sam nodded for him to try. So Carl did. Hesitant, quiet, but true. Their voices didn't match perfectly. Sam's was polished, trained, steady. Carl's was raw and full of ache. But when they sang together, something clicked. It wasn't perfect. It was better. It was real. By the end of the session, Carl was laughing, actually laughing, as he strummed out a messy version of the chorus. "I felt that," he said, beaming. Sam smiled. "Good, because that's what it's about. You don't need to sound like anyone else. You just need to sound like you." And from that night on, the apartment echoed with more than healing. It echoed with music. Two brothers discovering the sound of their bond, one note at a time. To be continued. Chapter 9, Stripped Down. The air was cool that night in Nashville, humming with crickets and the distant rustle of trees outside the bedroom window. Inside, the apartment was quiet, dimly lit by a single lamp in the hallway. Music lessons were done, dishes washed, and the guitars leaned against the wall, resting after a good day's work. Carl stood in his room, arms crossed, staring at the soft glow of the moon through the window blinds. He was quiet, but something about him looked lighter, looser, like maybe the weight he carried was finally shifting. He peeled off his socks, then his shirt, then finally tugged down his pants and stepped out of them, leaving them in a gentle heap by the bed. He climbed under the blanket in just his t-shirt and boxers, the cool sheets wrapping around him like a cocoon. It was the first time in his life he felt safe enough to sleep like that. No fear of being walked in on. No judgment. No shame. Just warmth. Just stillness. Just peace. Sam passed by the room, saw the soft glow through the cracked door, and smiled. "Good night, Carl," he whispered. From the bed, a muffled voice answered, "Night, Sam. Thanks for everything." Sam leaned against the doorframe for a second, watching his twin brother drift into sleep, finally relaxed, finally home. The journey was far from over. But for now, this quiet, pantless moment of comfort was everything. He turned off the hallway light and let the darkness settle in like a lullaby. To be continued. Chapter 10. The Night Terror. It was just past 2 a.m. when the silence of the apartment broke. Sam jolted awake to a sharp, choked sound, half sob, half gasp, coming from down the hall. For a moment, he lay still, listening. Then it came again, louder, desperate. Carl. Sam was on his feet in seconds, padding barefoot across the hardwood floor. He pushed open the door to Carl's room and found him twisted in the sheets, face wet with tears, fists clenched tight against his chest. His legs kicked beneath the blanket like he was trying to run from something he couldn't escape. No. Please, no. Don't leave me here. Carl whimpered, his voice cracking in his sleep. Sam moved to the bed, sat on the edge, and gently placed a hand on Carl's shoulder. Hey, Carl. Wake up. It's just a dream. I'm here. Carl jolted awake with a sharp gasp, his eyes wide and wild with confusion. It took him a second to recognize where he was. And who was with him. Then he broke. The tears came hard, ugly. Carl curled into himself, sobbing into his palms. Sam didn't speak right away. He just pulled him into a slow, quiet hug, holding him close like a brother should have all those years ago. Carl buried his face in Sam's chest. It felt real. I was back in that house, locked in that basement, alone. I could hear them upstairs laughing, and I was just forgotten. Sam's grip tightened. You're not there anymore. You're here, with me. Carl nodded through the tears, shuddering. You're safe now, Sam whispered. No more locked doors, no more cold floors. You have your own bed, your own room, your own life. I'm sorry I woke you, Carl said, voice raw. Don't be. You can wake me up 1,000 times if you need to. That's what brothers do. They sat there in the dim light, the night pressing gently on the windows, but the darkness inside the room slowly began to lift. Eventually, Carl's breathing calmed. His sobs turned to sniffles, then to silence. He laid back down, still trembling, but grounded now. And Sam stayed sitting nearby until Carl's eyes closed again, this time in peace. Outside, the moon kept watch. Inside, healing continued, one broken night at a time. To be continued.